Hey everyone, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to CUFI University. It's our first CUFI U of 2020, and man, we're starting this year off with a bang. Let me tell you, right before I came on and joined you here, talk about timing, there are reports that Qasem Soleimani, he's that Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps general who has been in charge of the Iranian regime's external operations in places like Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Lebanon, and beyond. There are reports that he has been killed in an airstrike at Baghdad airport. Folks, I literally just got this news before I began our Facebook Live here, so we don't have too many details yet. But the reports are that Qasem Soleimani, a man I've referred to as the most dangerous man in the Middle East, the reports are that he is dead and gone. We'll see. We need more information, but just know that as soon as I hop off with you here, I'll be reading and analyzing these events, and we'll come back to you tomorrow here on the CUFI Facebook page with a breaking update. Qasem Soleimani reportedly killed in an airstrike at Baghdad airport. I literally just saw this news. It's 9 p.m. Eastern, folks. I literally just saw this news come across my phone at 8:59, 1 minute ago. Major game changer if this is indeed the case. Most dangerous man in the Middle East, the terror master of the Iranian regime, answered directly to the supreme leader of Iran. And I think it's a great place to kick off for what's coming in 2020. We've been telling you time and time again here at Christians United for Israel that the Iranian regime is on the march, that they're becoming more bold, more ambitious, and we saw that clearly during the final weekend of 2019 when Iranian-backed Shia militias in Iraq struck an Iraqi military base in northern Iraq, killed one American contractor, and wounded 4 U.S. soldiers. Now, the Trump administration thankfully vowed to respond with force. They did exactly that. Airstrikes also over the weekend, the last weekend of 2019, killed some 27 of these Iranian-backed terrorists along the Iraq-Syria border. And then we had, obviously, what we saw unfold the past few days, these Iranian-backed militias, some 6,000 of them, attempting to storm the U.S. Embassy compound in Baghdad and basically create another Benghazi-type situation. Now, thankfully, that did not happen. These Shia militias, directed by Iran and directed by Qasem Soleimani, the not-so-dearly departed Qasem Soleimani, if reports are correct, attempted to storm the embassy compound. They backed off now. A rapid response team of 100 U.S. Marines kind of filled the gap there and helped hold them off. The embassy was not evacuated. The staff stood their ground, and it was a very precarious situation, folks. Look, these terrorists, backed by the Iranian regime, thousands of them, they apparently, you can see the pictures online, destroyed a reception area in the embassy, graffitied on the walls, caused all sorts of damage, and tried to get further into the U.S. Embassy, but thankfully they were repelled. But look, this is the natural next progression, I guess. Soleimani apparently, reportedly dead. Again, we don't have all the details yet. This is breaking news. We just learned this literally about 5 minutes ago. But we'll bring you more details as soon as we have them here at Christians United for Israel. I think, look, if we're talking tonight, the subject tonight of CUFI U is what's coming in 2020. What's coming globally, regionally in the Middle East? What does it mean for Israel, for America, and for you, no matter where you live? And also what we're doing at Christians United for Israel, the tremendous growth and the impact that we're having. So we start off, look, breaking news, as we said, Qasem Soleimani, if you're just joining us, Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps general in charge of Iran's external terror operations, the man I refer to as the most dangerous man in the Middle East, has reportedly been killed in an airstrike at Baghdad airport. We don't have many details at all yet, but once we do, we will bring them to you. So we start with, we're looking ahead at 2020, right? We start obviously with the collision course that Iran is on, not only with the United States, but obviously with Israel. Now in 2019, the Iranians became much bolder. We saw a shipping attacked in the Persian Gulf. We saw a U.S. drone shot down, and most stunningly, we saw that cruise missile and drone attack back in September 2019 against Saudi oil fields that shut down some 5% of the world's oil supply. So clearly the Iranian regime has its back against the wall. U.S. sanctions are biting. They're having a major effect, and Iran is lashing out. They are lashing out against their external enemies to deflect attention from the internal domestic disaster. Their economy is crumbling thanks to U.S. sanctions, and they're lashing out. And instead of backing up, they're going to push ahead. Iran, we've told you many times, controls 4 Arab capitals: Sana'a in Yemen, Beirut in Lebanon, Damascus in Syria, Baghdad in Iraq, where, look, I was in northern Iraq recently, folks, just a few months ago on a Watchman show production, and Kurdish officials there, Peshmerga officials said, hey, Qasem Soleimani is basically the prime minister of Iraq. Iraq is completely controlled by the Iranian regime. So they're on the march. They are becoming more aggressive and more bold. And we see clearly the collision course coming now, look, with the United States. But we see clearly also, and this has been building for years, we've been talking about this looming Great Northern War between Israel to Israel's north and southern Lebanon in the Golan, where Iran and Hezbollah and their proxies have set up shop with deadly intentions and hundreds of thousands of rockets pointed at every inch of Israel. This is a red line, a non-starter for Israel. Israel says, we will not allow you, Iran, to become entrenched in Syria at our northern doorstep. Iran says, we're not going anywhere. We have powerful friends in the form of Turkey and Vladimir Putin's Russia. So what do you have? Unlike some, the Israelis keep their red lines, and there is a collision course right now, folks, that's really coming to a head as we begin 2020. Keep Israel in your prayer. Keep the United States in your prayers. By the way, keep the people of Iran in your prayers. Last month, thousands of Iranians once again took to the streets to protest this wicked regime, and some 1,500 Iranian civilians were slaughtered by the Iranian regime during these protests. So keep the people of Iran in your prayers as well. Momentous things, monumental things happening right now in the Middle East. And folks, what happens in the Middle East does not stay in the Middle East. I can assure you that. And in 2020, I believe it's a year with major prophetic implications. And the entire world will be fixated on the Middle East, on Israel, on Jerusalem. That's the times we're living in. For such a time as this, Christians United for Israel exists, not only with what's happening over there in the Middle East, but what's happening right here if you're in the United States. And we hope people are joining us from around the world. I know we have people joining us because I see you writing in. Thank you for joining us. God bless you, everyone. Thanks for writing in. The big thumbs up. We love you too. Happy New Year to everyone. Thanks for joining us with this breaking news that Iranian General, Revolutionary Guards Corps General Qasem Soleimani, it looks like reportedly he has been killed in an airstrike at Baghdad airport. But what I was mentioning in terms of at home, if you're living here in the United States or in Europe, wherever you are in the West, the other big story to watch in 2020, in addition to Iran on the march, that collision course we're discussing, in addition to the rise of Turkey and Erdogan, the radical Islamist strongman, in addition to that rapidly forming alliance between Turkey, Iran, and Russia, a never-before-seen alliance. These are traditionally foes who have fought wars against each other, but many believe that prophecy is coming together with this alliance between Turkey, Russia, and Iran. That bears close watching in 2020. But also, the other big story, the other big narrative we're following at Christians United for Israel, the rise of anti-Semitism, the rise of violent anti-Semitism. Folks, it's bad enough when someone vandalizes a synagogue or graffitis swastikas on a Jewish community center. We see that far too often in the United States and in Europe. But now we see an uptick in violent anti-Semitic acts right here in the United States. This country has traditionally been a safe haven for the Jewish people. Now, I'm sad to say, there are signs that may be changing. Rewind to October 2018, the deadliest anti-Semitic attack in American history. 12 people murdered by an anti-Semitic madman at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. Then, in the spring of 2019, another deadly attack at a synagogue outside of San Diego. One person killed. And now, over the past few months, in particular over the past week alone, the final weeks of 2019, we see an absolute outbreak of anti-Semitic violence and madness in the New York City metropolitan area. Now, it all started a few weeks ago in North Jersey, just across the river from New York City, when two radical, I guess they were black nationalist gunmen who were very anti-Semitic, had anti-Semitic material in their homes, on their computers, infiltrated or broke into a kosher market in North Jersey and killed 3 people. This was not by coincidence that they targeted a kosher Jewish market. So then we have continuously, in the weeks following that attack, that deadly attack, just a complete outbreak of attacks against the Orthodox Jewish community in Brooklyn, where there's a large Jewish community, a Hasidic community there. Attack after attack, verbal but physical as well. Jews walking down the streets are set upon by packs of young people yelling anti-Semitic slurs, swinging and kicking and punching, and causing some major damage. Women pushing strollers have been threatened and yelled at with horrific anti-Semitic abuse. And look, in the final weekend of 2019, also, as we had things unfolding in the Middle East, we had a machete attack. A madman burst into a rabbi's home who was having a Hanukkah party and seriously wounded some 5 people. And it doesn't look good for at least one of those victims from what we are reading reports in the last 2 days. This is all unfolding over the past few weeks alone, folks. In the United States, I would say the New York City metropolitan area is facing an epidemic. These are epidemic proportions of violent anti-Semitic attacks. So, what are we going to do about it? This is why we exist. This is why Christians United for Israel was created. And guess what? Amid all the madness and chaos that I'm talking to you about now, good news. Christians United for Israel just reached the 8 million member mark. Imagine that. We have 8 million followers of Jesus standing shoulder to shoulder with Israel and the Jewish people. For such a time as this, it's an unprecedented movement. It's a revolution in the church, in the 2,000-year history of the church, folks. Think about this. The Gentile church, 2,000 years, we have never seen a mass movement of Gentile followers of Jesus standing openly and boldly with Israel and the Jewish people. But in the form of Christians United for Israel, we have just that, started by our founder and chairman, the visionary, Pastor John Hagee, back in 2006. And look how we've grown to 8 million members in under 14 years. Folks, God's hand is on this movement. Only God could increase CUFI's numbers, reach, and influence like has unfolded over the past few years for these exact times that we are living in. Look, it's easy to be pro-Israel and wave the Israeli flag and blow the shofar when good things are happening, when the embassy is moving to Jerusalem, when President Trump is pulling out of that disastrous Iran nuclear deal. Great stuff. But it's easy to say, go Israel, when that's happening. But what will we do when things get nasty? When things are breaking out in the Middle East? When anti-Semitism is on the rise? When the mainstream media is howling against Israel when it defends itself against Hamas terrorists in Gaza? That, my friends, is where we will earn our keep as supporters of Israel and friends of the Jewish people. Now, as we move into 2020, as chaos is unfolding, as things seem to be on the brink in the Middle East right now, the enemies of Israel and America on the march and confronting the West, confronting the forces of freedom and democracy, this is where we stand up. This is where we earn our keep. Look, if you're a Christian, don't think that you can just sit back and these events in Israel, the targeting of the Jewish people in Israel and right here in America, will not affect you. You can say, wow, tough break for the Jews, but I'm sitting here in the most prosperous country in the history of the world. I'm a Christian. I don't have to worry. Think again. The same radical forces, whether it's radical jihadists, whether it's radical far left types, whether it's radical Nazi sympathizer types, which are targeting the Jews, rest assured, they also hate Christians. There's an old saying in the world of radical Islam. I think it applies to all these streams of radicalism that I just mentioned. First, the Saturday people, the Jews. Then the Sunday people, the Christians. So, this is not brain surgery. It's pretty clear that the enemies of the Jewish people are the enemies of Christians everywhere. So let's wake up. At CUFI, we are standing strong, and we're making a difference not only in churches and communities across the United States and across the world. We're making a difference on Capitol Hill. Yes, I know it's the swamp in Washington, D.C. Like it or not, that's still where legislation is passed. Pro-Israel, pro-America legislation, that's still where things get done in Washington, D.C. And CUFI, thankfully, through our CUFI Action Fund, we have a major influence, presence, and impact on Capitol Hill. We're in the halls of Congress every day, advocating for a strong America, a strong Israel, advocating for that unbreakable bond between the U.S. and Israel to grow even stronger, to continue, and promoting legislation that is to the benefit not only of Israel, but to every American. I'll give you an example. Just last month, President Trump signed into law the Antisemitism Awareness Act. Now, our team at CUFI had been pushing this for at least 3 years and lobbying Congress. Hey, you need to pass this. What it does is it protects Jewish students and their Christian friends, by the way, on campus, who are targeted by these anti-Semitic forces, verbal intimidation, violent physical intimidation. The Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, which President Trump signed into law, holds these vicious anti-Semites accountable. Whether it's teachers, students, administrations, their funding is on the line. According to this piece of legislation, as mandated by this piece of legislation, their funding is on the line if they want to play games and engage in anti-Semitism. This could be a potential game changer. That's why our team at CUFI lobbied so hard for it. We're also lobbying right now to hold Turkey accountable. Look, Recep Erdogan, this side of the Iranian regime, is the most anti-Israel leader in the world, bar none. So whether it's the Eastern Mediterranean Act, other legislation that we are promoting and lobbying for on Capitol Hill, the Lebanese Armed Forces Act, holding Lebanon accountable, by the way, for the behavior of Hezbollah, which is a state within a state inside Lebanon, in southern Lebanon. We are holding the tyrants' feet to the fire at Christians United for Israel. And here's the great thing about it, folks. We are actually having an impact. When 8 million people speak, Washington listens. And your members of Congress, your lawmakers, listen very closely. So there's no surprise that you'll see our team at the White House, on Capitol Hill, with the ear of America's leaders, of lawmakers, making a difference. Folks, look, Israel's enemies and America's enemies are one in the same. So when you're advocating for a strong Israel, you're advocating for a strong America as well. That's exactly what we're doing in D.C. and beyond. As I said, churches, communities, we're holding thousands of events every year in support of Israel and explaining the biblical mandate and the common sense mandate for every Christian to stand with Israel and the Jewish people. Not only that, we are present at CUFI on campus, on hundreds of college campuses across the United States, across North America, again, making an impact in the belly of the beast, where, look, these are, many universities today are hotbeds of anti-Semitism, not to mention anti-Americanism, I'm sad to say, not only at the student level, but even professors. We hear report after report of this kind of insane rhetoric. At CUFI on campus, we are standing in the gap, again, in the belly of the beast on America's college campuses. Our Israel Collective, our millennial arm, as I'm running down everything we're doing in 2020, just so you know, because if you're with us tonight here on Facebook, I think you'd rather know than not know. I think you're a part of this movement at Christians United for Israel, and we want to give you this update to show you how we, through you, with your help, are making a difference, and I believe making history. A lot of people are worried about the millennial generation. God bless them, but a lot of people are worried that our millennial friends are maybe not as pro-Israel as their forefathers. At CUFI, we are addressing this through our Israel Collective. We're taking every year hundreds of millennial pastors, entertainment figures, athletes, entertainers, people who have influence among that millennial generation. We're bringing them to Israel Some of them arrive maybe kind of lukewarm, maybe indifferent. Folks, I can guarantee they are returning home here to the United States, to their congregations, to their spheres of influence as committed Christian Zionists. That's the power of what we're doing, not only on college campuses, not only with people out of colleges in that millennial age in Washington, D.C. We have so many programs, so many things cooking on the burner, so to speak. Good things are happening, great things are happening. And for such a time as this, we like to say that, but it really applies. This is the time. We are striking while the iron is hot. Look, the U.S. Embassy would not have moved to Jerusalem, I firmly believe that, without the strong push from Pastor Hagee to the White House, lobbying for this, which should have been done long ago, but history was made, and I think we're only in the beginning stages of it. At the Watchman show, which I host for Christians United for Israel every week, you can watch us every Friday night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern on TBN, Sunday nights, 12:30 a.m. Eastern on the Fox Business Network. That was a great development for us in 2019. We're bringing you the kinds of cutting-edge stories that you just won't hear anywhere else, so be sure to tune in to our program every Friday night, TBN, Sunday night on the Fox Business Network. We're on the ground, on location in Israel and throughout the Middle East, bringing you the on-the-ground perspective of what's happening over there and why it matters to you over here or wherever you live around the world. So I'm trying to think if I've forgotten anything. I think I've given you a pretty good overview of what we're doing and the impact we're making with your help. We can't do it without you. Two last things to mention. Number one, our Washington Summit. This is the premier pro-Israel event in the United States every year, folks. The CUFI Washington Summit. This year, it's June 28th through June 30th. Mark your calendars in Washington, D.C., June 28th through June 30th. Now, absolutely, this is a great time to come to Washington, D.C., because the 4th of July here, it's a great time to be here. The fireworks, lots of activities, a great time to be here. So come from June 28th to June 30th. Stay a few days for the 4th of July here. Already confirmed, one of our keynote speakers, Ambassador David Freeman, the U.S. Ambassador to Israel, the very first ambassador to serve at the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. It still feels so good to say that. The one and only Pastor John Hagee, our founder and chairman, will also be speaking. Every year, the Prime Minister of Israel also gives an address, and we have leading members of Congress. Last year, get this lineup, folks. In 2019 at the summit, Vice President Mike Pence, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, New York Yankees legend and Hall of Famer Mariano Rivera, nationally syndicated talk radio host Dennis Prager. Those were just some of the names that spoke at the CUFI Washington Summit in 2019. I can't wait to see who we have in 2020. Go to CUFI.org to register for our Washington Summit. Folks, we need you. This is the premier pro-Israel gathering in the United States every year. Some 5,500 committed pro-Israel, Bible-believing followers of Jesus will take root in the Washington Convention Center. You'll be shoulder to shoulder with like-minded folks speaking with one unified voice for a strong America, a strong Israel, and a strong U.S.-Israel relationship. You won't want to miss this, folks. An amazing, amazing time, June 28th to the 30th. I know at CUFI.org there are also some special discounts, and you can come to D.C. for a few days, and you'll never forget it, because we all know that verse where Jesus said, "Until I return, you just sit there on your couch and you wait for me." No, I'm just checking to see that you're awake. Jesus said quite the opposite, folks. The Lord your God expects us to put our faith into action. And that's exactly what we're doing at Christians United for Israel, and especially at our summit, a show of force and influence and numbers in our nation's capital, when, by the way, on Capitol Hill, we have some viciously anti-Israel forces right now, and members of Congress. Pretty unprecedented what's happening is there as well. So it's even more important now that you come to D.C. and join us at the summit. We will have a chance to lobby members of Congress face-to-face at the CUFI Summit. You will be in the offices of your senator, your congressman, your congresswoman. You'll be meeting with them, their chiefs of staff, their representatives, and you can make your voice heard. That's another very unique aspect and opportunity presented by the CUFI Washington Summit, June 28th to the 30th. Mark your calendars, come, stay a few extra days in D.C., enjoy the fireworks on the National Mall, a very wonderful patriotic time here. Good things are happening. Look, we have these events unfolding, the rise of anti-Semitism, Turkey, Iran, the Middle East on fire, but God Almighty still sits on the throne. He neither slumbers nor sleep, and I can tell you that our movement at Christians United for Israel is at the tip of the spear of what God is doing today. I truly believe that. What God is up to today is Israel, is Jerusalem, his land, his city. And if you're a member of Christians United for Israel, this mighty movement of God, you've got a front row seat for everything the Lord is doing. Hey, we live in perilous times, but we live in Bible times. It's an exciting time to be alive. Thanks for joining us tonight. Hey, January 2nd, a new year, new beginnings, new opportunities for 2020. Go to CUFI.org, join our movement, register for the Washington Summit. I will see you there in D.C. Until then, God bless you. Thanks for joining us tonight, and we will see you again soon. Take care.